Leeds, Leeds, Leeds. What is happening? Welcome to Working Hours, a show about a place called Leeds, a time called now, and an activity called work. Working Hours wants to record 1,000 loiners over the course of this, the most important decade in the history of the human species, and ask them about what they do all day and hear how they feel about it. My mission is to try to map out what my city, Leeds, a city that has declared a climate emergency, is doing during humanity's biggest emergency. On Working Hours, we hear how loiners have, are, and will be coping with our multiple crises: the global pandemic, Brexit, and of course, the ongoing and accelerating collapsing of capitalism, the state, and the climate through this decade. To do this, I need people like you, dear listener. Most of all, I need people who are in Leeds or who are from Leeds to come on this show and be my guests. So please join me and help me with this mission whenever and however you can. Critically, I will need people like you, dear listener, as financial backers. Please consider supporting or donating to this project. You can do so with a £1 monthly donation via either Patreon or Ko-fi, or you could donate any one-off amount to Working Hours via either Ko-fi or through the LibrePay button on the About page of Western Studios website. Thank you. My name is Simon, and this is all my fault. What did you want to be when you grew up?
I was really imaginative when I was growing up. I either wanted to be a policeman, or I wanted to work in finance for a few years and then start my own business. Which that is actually what I did. It wasn't like I was that was my hopes and dreams of my life. It was just seemed like a reasonable thing to do. I don't think I ever really cared that much about anything. I didn't grow up wanting to be a footballer like a lot of people. I didn't have that desire. Just it's more about life.
So you say finance first. What did you do finance-wise?
I worked in building societies for a number of years. Started off at Scarborough Building Society, went to Leeds Building Society, and then from there went to Yorkshire Building Society. And I was there for, I think it was 13 years. A bit sketchy now. And I left there in March 2020. Great timing.
You're listening to episode 69, Dude. And to my guest, Mark Costello. This is another Zoom interview recorded on the 8th of August, 2022. Hello, loves. Horsforth Brewery is run by innovative brewer Mark Costello, supplying the local Horsforth and wider area with tasty quality beers. Starting as a part-time project in 2017 in Mark's garage, the brewery progressed to its own unit at the end of 2018 and, as of March 2020, became Mark's full-time job. All Horsforth Brewery beers are vegan-friendly. Go to horsforthbrewery.co.uk to find out more and drink some local beer, and if you're in Horsforth, to drink some really local beer. Now let's get on with this episode of Working Hours with Mark Costello. What is it that you're doing now then?
So I own Horsforth Brewery. And my tasks from that vary massively. I sometimes get involved in the brews, but typically I don't so much anymore, mainly due to injury and time. So my main task is like sales, getting like the social media accounts, and just getting our name out there. That's the main thing. Plus I do all the accounting and HR side of stuff. And yeah, that side. I sometimes work behind the bar as well, but I've got a tackling manager, so I've stepped back from that a little bit. Got her feet under the table. So yeah, mainly at the moment trying to sell beer.
Well, you're producing in it. You are producing it in enough volume that you can't drink it all. So,
well, yeah. That was the thing. I did homebrew for a number of years, and right before I started the brewery, and I was producing too much beer that I just couldn't drink it, and it's kind of part of the thought process about setting up the brewery as well. I'm enjoying brewing beer. I can't drink it, so I'm giving it away. So it's actually really expensive beer that I'm making it because it's because I'm not drinking much of it.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I may as well try and sell it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that was going to be my next question, sort of, how did you get into it? So, I mean, do you want to tell us that story, like the whole process of, you know, like take us through kind of setting up? I mean, when you made the decision to go from, you know, brewing your own, obviously you've got all that financial background and experience. So you've been working with numbers, you've been working with like, you know, money, your whole career, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So, was it a fairly easy decision? Were you just like, you knew what you were doing straight away, or was it kind of,
It was, yes and no. It was kind of, because, I think it was kind of harder because I am aware of the numbers and finances and things, and that makes it hard. So whilst I was on a good living doing finance, I wasn't by any means like rich, but I was comfortable. I know how hard it is stepping back from that, and the reality is that I don't get paid much at all now. So, you know, your finance brain is like, you're making a really stupid decision. You know, this is a kid that grew up wanting to work in finance and run his own business. The idea is that you get to know finance and you get to make some money and have a healthy life. Right? That's the point of it. And I was making a conscious decision to earn very little money. So it kind of went against the nature a little bit. But the original kind of thought process came from years ago. I had a pretty not pleasant manager who decided that he didn't like me personally, and that really impacted my career where I was. And I could have moved places, but I basically grew disillusioned with the office life and just working on spreadsheets most of the time. And just thought, do you know what, there's more to life than this. And I wanted to run my own business. Didn't know what I wanted to do. I'm pretty good at cooking and baking. So I cooked and baked pretty much anything that was going, you know, or could I do a street food business, could I do some sort of food business.
Yeah.
I was good. I still, so I'm quite good, but I'm not a chef.
Yeah.
And the kind of mentality I was, would I buy this? And would I buy it again? And it was like, well, I'd buy it. And it's quite nice, but it's not quite, up there. And happened to get into homebrew because a friend of a friend lent me his kit for the first brew, did it. Well, to be fair, did that brew. And it was just, Wilco's had to sell the homebrew kits. It was one of those. I was like, this is brewery. This is just putting hot water in treacle. And this is brewery. So I bought a load of kit to do it properly and did they call the all grain. Is it all grain? All grain homebrew? I think it is. I might have touched the homebrew clearly. All grain brew. And did that. And it works. Well, the first brew worked, second brew works. And I was like, I would buy that and I would buy it again. I was like, I think I've found my thing. Kind of like alongside it, me and my mate, we'd go to the pub quite a lot. We liked to have beer. And we were in one of the local pubs in Horsforth and was like, is there a brewery in Horsforth? And he's financially minded. We're like, there isn't. We went away and Googled it. There isn't a brewery in Horsforth. So I was like, well, maybe there should be a brewery in Horsforth. So I registered Horsforth Brewery Limited, trademarked the name. And I think that was actually before I started brewing. I was like, so that's the financial side, I guess, is trying to secure the IP on it. And
did you get all the socials as well? Go for all the website, social media?
I'm trying to think whether I did. I think I started with the Twitter, and I did get a Twitter account. But like now, whenever I've got an idea, I've just set up a social this weekend for something that hasn't quite launched yet. So you kind of learn about the importance of the socials. Instagram wasn't as big a thing back then, so you didn't have to worry about that. And Facebook was, I probably did set up a Facebook, I don't know. But it was all kind of coming together then. And I moved teams at Yorkshire Building Society, and I was with a really good manager then. But by that point, my mind had kind of drifted.
Yeah, you'd already exited.
Yeah, I was like, I just don't want to do this anymore. And I was in a bit more of an interesting job in terms of we got to go places, and I got taken out dinners and things, which was nice. Bankers took us out, but my heart wasn't in it. I didn't do as good a job as I should have done, and I was setting up the brewery. I set up in my garage. We're doing some house renovations, and I set it up there. And we launched 5 years ago last week, and started in the garage. And then I went part-time at the other job because, like I say, my manager was very good and understanding, which I appreciated a lot. Did that, and was part-time for a couple of years, went through a divorce, which took time. So that kind of stopped me from going full-time because I wanted to get that out of the way. Meant I had to sell that house that had the garage, and that meant we had to get our own, proper commercial premises. And that's where, we could really take off and have a public facing brewery, because I wasn't having customers coming to the garage. Obviously that was, so that was a good business decision, but it was kind of forced by the personal circumstances. Handed my notice in December 19. I was like, right, I've got personal life sorted. I've got commercial premises. I've ordered a bigger kit that we can sell beer. Had my notice in, 3 months notice. It's all kind of hunky dory, bit scary, but it's like, this is the right time to do it. And I think I genuinely left. I think it was in the first week of lockdown. By the time you take into account the holidays, left in March 2020 and a couple of weeks holiday at the end. And I had one Monday where I had planned my week because I'm doing this. Tuesday I'm doing this. I had one Monday where I did what I was meant to do. And then the rest of that week, it just went to shit. It did. And I was just like, I can't believe I've done this. I can't believe that this has happened now. And all the government help that was coming out, you had to have X amount of years of accounts. And I was like, well, I don't, because I've literally just started in theory. And, that was the perfect time to switch from a sole trader to a limited company. So I did that because that was the perfect timing. It was the right thing to do. And it just meant we fell through all the cracks. For all the help. So set up a web shop, like the day, I think we got it live the day before Pub Shop. And if I'm honest, business was easy for the first month or two of COVID because, I don't know about you, but I got drunk a lot.
I think a lot of people did.
I did. And you couldn't leave your house. So I was driving around delivering the beer. Well, to be fair, I then had to get someone to do some of the deliveries for me because I was then shielded at the start of COVID, which made it even more tricky. But then I kind of reasoned that I could safely deliver beer and it'd be fine. So I did a lot of that. And that was kind of like the nice, easy bit. It then just got progressively harder.
All right. Well, since we're on COVID, we may as well go into COVID. So, I mean, my question on it normally is basically put you back in the mindset, but you're already there. But also to look at the contrast of like how much work you were doing before COVID hit, how much work after, the sort of change in your work, how it changed your work and how it affected, I suppose, your well-being and also like your work-life balance, as they like to call it.
So completely took over my life.
The business did.
Just trying to survive. So like I said, we had some bigger kit, and I'd started the process of moving again to a bigger premises, which is where we are now. And I'd got a couple of members of staff at that point. So there's just all this added pressure of, well, pubs are literally shut. So the bigger kit I've got is useless at the moment. And delivering to people's houses is quite intensive. It's labor intensive. I was spending a day to 2 days full just delivering beer, which like I say is great. But as time went on, you could see that people were starting to get a bit fatigued of drinking a lot. Sales were going down, bottle shops had started to slow down, then pubs reopened, but pubs were quiet. And that's where COVID really started to hit, was kind of the end of 2020. And then all of 2021 was just painful because it was up for the Euros. And then after the Euros, after England lost that game, everything just ground to a halt. And last year was just an awful year, which completely destroyed. Like by the time Christmas came, I was mentally destroyed from it. And I just took some time fully away from the brewery. I just couldn't cope with it. Which is the best business decision you ever make.
But you gotta, your health comes first, and COVID kind of taught us that. So
yeah, it did. And then this year's been a lot better. But yeah, last year, like COVID itself was hard. All the savings that I'd had, from selling the house and what have you, that was my backup. Followed up. So yeah, we ran out of cash. I'm trying to think. November 2020 was the first time we ran out of cash, and I mean out of cash. Gone. It's just been that affected your mental health a lot, because a good number of years in my job was about liquidity management, so making sure you've got enough cash.
That's immediately what I went to. I was like, I mean, you're a money man, so like that must be a nightmare. The worst spreadsheet to look at for yourself.
Well, I was saying this on Friday, actually. Like, I've got a decent amount of spreadsheets, so my career is built on building spreadsheets. But I don't need to use spreadsheets because I know this business so well, and it's only me that's looking at spreadsheets. So I know when things are happening. In the November cash flow crunch, I knew about 3 to 4 weeks before it was going to happen that we were going to run out of cash. And it was basically just trying to scrabble all the cash for that. And that was a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of stress from it. And now when we run out of cash, I'm like, it'll be fine.
And it'll turn up.
And it always does. But again, it's being able to plan that it's going to happen. So, I know when it's going to happen. I know when the crunch is coming. So thankfully, we can manage it pretty well. But yeah, COVID was especially with being shielded as well. At the time, at the very start, you didn't know how you caught it. You didn't know how easy it was to catch and whether you could catch it outside. So, I've got the dog, so I've got to go walk the dog. So we're getting up at 5 a.m, despite being told like not to ever leave the house. Well, if I had a garden, got to walk the dog and just avoid people. And then as time goes on, that eased a little bit, but for a period it was quite nice because I let the guys work in the brewery whilst I stayed at home for 2 days a week. Because I didn't want to, I couldn't furlough them because they were too new. So I didn't want to have them lose out on their money. And they found it useful to work during COVID as well for their mental health. So they were working every 2 days. I'd work in the 2 days before them, but then I'd be working at home, working on stuff. And that was quite nice because, spend a bit of time at home. Which is pleasant.
I mean, in a lot of ways, it did force people to slow down. But like you say, you're doing those extra hours because you're worrying. But then you've got all those spare hours as well. But it's that blend of like, oh, when the hell am I working now? Like, what's work time?
It just kind of blurred into one. I think that's always going to happen as well when you're in a small business. It is going to blur, and it's going to be hard to switch off, and it's hard not to be contactable at all times. But COVID really exaggerated that, because every bit of news and every headline had an impact on what was going to happen with our business. And that was especially true last year, when Omicron came or, all the negative news, we'd instantly see a drop off in business. And people, have their different opinions or what have you about whether you should care about COVID. I don't really care about that. And that's why he said to people, I don't care whether Omicron is the most deadly thing in the world or it's completely mild. I mean, I do, but, I don't.
Business wise, it's like, can we open or not? Like, can we trade?
And are people going to come in? Because when Christmas was coming and Omicron started kicking off, people are, don't worry about it. It's not as deadly. Everyone's vaccinated. I don't care. I mean, I do care about it, but I don't care about that. Like, it's scaring people and it's stopping people coming in. And that's what matters. And if you looked at all the pubs and people weren't going out because they wanted a Christmas, they want to isolate for Christmas. And a lot of people just worked from home. So the city centres were dead. So a lot of our customers were shut. And the tapping would quieten down. And then Christmas itself came. And after Christmas, we had a bit of a boom because people were like, right, Christmas is done. I can go to the pub. Well, great. But we've just lost thousands of pounds. So that was hard.
Did the war affect you as well?
Yeah. Well, indirectly, the week it started to kick off definitely affected us. People seemed to be scared.
Yeah.
Had a quiet couple of weeks, and then it started coming back. And then obviously the energy prices. Whenever the headlines talk about that, we get a hit then. That happens this year. That's how long we've come. Is the headlines about cost of living, which is tricky. It just feels, like there's always going to be another thing around the corner you've got to deal with, which it's the way it goes, isn't it? I think it's running a small business, and I think it's probably running any business, just some numbers are bigger and our numbers are quite small, which in a way makes it easy to manage because you don't have to find a lot of money to make ends meet, but it does mean we don't have a lot.
Yeah. So are you past break even? Are you in profit yet or?
No. We lost £1,500 in our financial year 2021 to 2022. I don't mind losing £1,500.
How much compared to the year before? So,
significantly better.
Yeah. So it's working, isn't it? You're heading in the right direction, even through adversity. It's you've obviously got something pretty solid there.
Yeah. At times it doesn't feel it. And then when we look at, well, actually compare this with this time last year, the Euros had finished. We've got a nice base level of, certainly the taproom side, the retail side, a nice base level of income that we don't really drop below. That's quite reassuring because it means that worst comes to worst, that's what we get.
Yeah.
And last year we didn't have that. We'd have some really, really bad weeks.
Yeah.
And that, part of it is we only moved to this premises in October 2020. So we only opened in April last year. So not many people knew we existed in the area. And we still get people coming in now saying, "Oh, I had no idea you were here." Well, we try.
Well, also loads of people haven't been out for like 2 years.
Yeah.
It's like, do you have that thing where you bump into people and you're kind of like, I haven't seen you for ages? It's like, oh yeah, I haven't seen you since the last decade.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? It's like, oh, what happened? Not a lot, really.
Yeah.
I've been on holiday.
Although you've started a business and you've like been weathering the storm. So, I mean, like I've talked to quite a few people who started up during, lockdown. And I mean, I'll ask you the same question that I've asked them of like, do you feel it's made you more robust? Do you feel like, you've learned lessons from that of like, you're starting in really hard times. Is that a good teacher for you?
Yeah, definitely is a good teacher. I think personally, I'd like to think I'm relatively robust anyway. So this is one of the things about the lockdown. The reason I was shielded was I've got rheumatoid arthritis, which is an autoimmune disease rather. It's not osteoarthritis. It affects your immune system. And I take medication that lowers that. So when I first had that, 12 years ago, I was really ill, like really, really sick. I was housebound for a good while. So I was kind of like used to being stuck in the house and not being able to do anything. I've done that. I've been there, done that, and I come on the other side. So that made me personally quite robust and resilient. And I think the business is getting there. Obviously we've got other members of the team now, and I've got to kind of appreciate sometimes that they don't have that experience that I've got going through. None of them have been here when we were going through the rough time, got to the team. And they might not have that experience of just going, right, I've just got to get through this. It's something I've got to be aware of because I'm just like, right, I'm just going to do it and get on. But it's definitely made the business more robust. It's made me a better business person. I used to always say, I have no idea if I can run a business. Right? I can guess I can run a business, but I don't know if I can. And, we've been going 2 years through COVID. It was 3 years before then, but I was part-time then, so it didn't matter. But yeah, we've been going over 2 years now. So well, do you know what? Maybe I can run a business.
Yeah.
Maybe I can. And you think it's given me a lot of skills that I might not have got. If we're just in a boom time and people are flooding through the door,
Mm.
and I wouldn't have to worry about stuff, and people would just flock in and buy beer, and happy days. I'll be driving off in a Ferrari. As it is, last year particularly, you have to think on your feet quite a lot and figure out, how do I get people to come through my door?
Or how do you get beer to them and make
or how do I get it to people? Right. And that, if I'm honest, that's the bit I haven't focused on that much. So I only had a taproom manager start this year. I can't remember if it was March or April now. April. Start of April it was. So we didn't really have anyone dedicated to do the taproom side of stuff. So I spent a lot of time on that side. And obviously, if you're selling to the retail customers, you've got a higher margin and you get better cash flow.
Yeah.
One of the things that the beer industry is notorious on is the trade customers don't pay that quickly.
Yeah.
So we've got to shell out ingredients, like electricity, staff, packaging, duty, often that, and then I might get paid.
Oh, well, and your transport and everything is packaging and yeah.
Right, you've got all of that. So if we brew a beer, there's at least £1,000 realistically in cost before you get anything back.
Yeah.
You've got to get the beer out the door, and then you've got to get the money in. So that whatever the margin is, £2 grand worth of sales or £2 grand margin, whatever, you ain't getting that for 2 to 3 months after you've brewed the beer.
Yeah.
So, but if you do it in the tap room, that £1,000 can get turned into 4 in a week.
Yeah.
And you get the cash. So that's what we had to focus on. And all the big breweries, obviously, post-COVID, were coming out with free beer for their customers if they install a line and so on. So they've got an uptake. Well, I can't compete with free beer. I can't give you free beer. I have to give you more expensive beer than they would normally charge you.
But you can give local beer made locally with local, Yeah.
So some people get that. Some people get what we're trying to do as a business, and some people don't, and they don't care. And some people go, well, someone's giving me free beer. Times are tight, so I'm going to take free beer. And I get that. But if I'm honest, I do understand that. So, we have to focus on keeping the business going, and that's where the taproom side really came into its own. And now Emma is running that. And we had our best ever week. So best ever month in July. And that's a combination of the work that I put in beforehand, and then she's come on, and the whole idea is that she takes it further, and she's starting to do that, which is great. So now I've got to focus on getting that beer out. That's now my job. And yeah, I'm only just starting to do that with concerted effort. We have some regular customers, and they always pay for us. That's great. But we need probably 4 to 5 more regular customers, and it isn't that many. That isn't too bad, and I think we can do that.
Oh yeah. 4 or 5 is doable, isn't it? I mean, everything you've done so far is just a little bit further, a little bit further.
That's, if I'm honest, that's what I'm about. I'm not. I've always been interested in small businesses and things, and you see some of these businesses come and go, and they'll come with a big bang. That was a cash spend. And you're like, well, that's amazing. But then they're disappeared in 2 years. And I don't want to be that guy. I want to be a business that is sustainable. Is here for the long term. So we do have a bit of debt, but not a lot. We've got COVID back loan. That was the cheapest finance you're ever going to get. So I bought an electric van with it. And the electric, in hindsight, it was actually a fantastic idea because we're still on our same electric deal we are until October next year. So whilst diesel prices have gone up, our van is still £5 to charge. And it's costing us less for the loan on the van than it would for diesel on a diesel van.
You make the money back in no time. Someone was saying that it was a post I saw online the other day. It was like, I charged my electric car and went from Bristol to London and back, and it cost me 11 quid. The train's like 130 quid. And it's like, I could go backwards and forwards. I could go and I could park outside illegally, like in an ambulance bay, pay the fine and come back, and still it'd be cheaper than
I don't know.
train. Yeah.
It's bad. And, this is where I'd love to have like solar panels and things like that, because then we just like, it's charging it. It's a free van. So that was it was quite a commitment, you know, it was a big loan to buy a brand new electric van. You know, they're not cheap. But it was, I mean, even then I did the numbers and it was going to cost, I think it was about 300 quid a month in diesel.
Yeah.
For a diesel van.
Or you've got some poor bugger on a bike.
Yeah.
You're like,
we didn't do that. We did do that. COVID. There's a delivery company in Chapel Alton called Dabble. And he just started as well. So I actually paid him to do some of my deliveries around Horsforth. And he's got an electric assisted delivery bike. So we actually did do that. I loved having that. And then the home deliveries just died off. So I couldn't use them anymore, which is a shame. Yeah, like the electric van costs us all in about 260 quid a month, like for the loan and to charge it. It's free, essentially. So yeah, I've pictured for that.
Yeah, that's good purchase, definitely.
Yeah, like I say, it's COVID bounce back loan. That was one of the, you know, politics aside, I can always say that, you know, furlough was very useful for a lot of people. We managed to utilize it a little bit last year. And the COVID bounce back loan was really useful for us as a business. Obviously now there's headlines about how people took advantage of it, but you know, those of us that didn't and we used it.
Well, you know, it's not like people weren't taking advantage before. So I was telling a story about my cousin. He was getting all these letters through the door for all these made up companies. And it's like, he rang up company's house and he's like, there's all these made up companies registering at my address. And they're like, well, you have to prove who you are and you have to prove all of this. It's like, I'm just letting you know. Yeah, this potential fraud. Shouldn't you do something about this?
Yeah,
like it's not on me. So yeah, and he was reckoning that they were kind of setting that up, you know, so that they could claim loans, and because people had learned from the first time of like with furlough and stuff, and like some money, they're like, right, well, if money's coming, we're going to get everything we can, and we're going to prepare for it.
Yeah, I did hear of someone who had a few businesses and they got the max loan on all of them, bought a house with it.
Yeah. And
you're like, well, it's not the point of the loan, but you know.
Well done.
Yeah.
Until you get caught.
Yeah. That's it. And again, I think that's the financial side of me is I'm always cautious I'm going to get caught if I do something like that. So,
well, yeah, and you've been looking at a lot of books. I mean, like, I was going to ask what sort of side of banking, were you retail side or commercial or?
On the wholesale side. So I was more on, like the end of my career was more trying to raise funding for the Builders Society. So we would package loans up. Remember when the whole credit crunch happened and there was all these toxic assets? It was the original concept of those isn't bad. It was the way that they then structured.
Yeah.
And
packaged them up with loads of crap loans.
Yeah.
And made lots of crap loans.
Yeah. And then packaged those together.
Yeah.
And sent it on. And it's a big short, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the original package that is actually decent loans is what I helped structure. And then we had to kind of get investors to buy into that. And then before that, it was interest rate risk management. So looking at the full balance sheet and for the organisation and forecasting it and looking at the current state as well and
potential dangers, like
pinch points. And I was on a sub-board committee that looked at the whole financial risk of the business as well. So it was. That was actually quite interesting. If that floats your boat, which it does float my boat for some reason. I did quite enjoy it. And then
the technicalities, isn't it? It's the little sort of, oh right, well, so if I tweak this, then this happens, or it should happen. Oh, has it happened?
Yeah,
you know, it's
and then I still keep in touch with a lot of people who work there because I've worked there a long time. And I had a job going. I just had a little look at their jobs page, and there was a job that was kind of a step below the job I used to do. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they're paying that much. It's like, this is unbelievable. I could go back and earn like 6 times more than what I'm earning now. And like, that's ridiculous. I can't believe that. And it's more than they were paying me.
But then if the business gets really successful, your potential earnings larger than that.
No, yeah, absolutely. I'm not thinking of going back.
No, a little bit though.
Probably the most tempted to be.
Tempted, yeah.
Purely financial. I just thought I just couldn't. Do you know what? I can't do? I can't get on that bus every day.
Yeah.
That was the soul destroying bit. Was go see the bus services in Leeds aren't exactly amazing.
Not exactly cheap.
They're not exactly cheap. And if you're going down Kirkstall Road, they're not exactly reliable.
God, yeah.
So standing at a bus stop for an hour to wait for a bus that's going to take an hour to go 5 miles, it was soul destroying. And I can't do that anymore. I just can't do it. I can't bring myself to ever do that again.
I know what you mean, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the beginning again before I move on. So I'm just interested in terms of your startup, like how did you go about that? Did you like save up capital and have a bunch that you were going to invest? Did you have like a capital amount in mind, or was it just loans, or did you just kind of like do what you could and kind of build up as you could?
So I saved up as best I could.
Did you have like a target amount in mind of like, we're going to need this much for setup?
No, and I probably should have done. I basically
just banged my foot, sorry.
I'm sorry. And I thought like, oh, that's a stupid thing to do. I kind of thought what I should do is get the kit.
Yeah.
What kit do I need? That's what I aim.
If I'm a brewery, I need to have a brewery.
Yeah, so I started with $4,500 because that got me the kit that I needed. And that's what I was able to save up on the side of, having everything else.
And this was going into your garage, and that was the plan. Yeah.
Yeah. So that bought the kit, it fit the electrics out of the garage and bought a few casks, the initial ingredients, everything like that. And then it kind of funded itself. Obviously, I didn't take a wage from it whilst I was working part-time at YBS. So it funded itself. And every now and again, I'd have to drop in a bit of cash just to buy an extra bit of capital equipment. But all in all, it self-funded until we needed to buy the bigger kit. So we bought kit that was 5 times bigger than what I started with. And that's when I used an organisation called Adventure that are based in Leeds.
I know them. Yeah. Very good.
Yeah, they are. So they provided a grant for half of the equipment. Amazing. So I utilised that. And then because of COVID and the lockdown and everything, the kit that I bought was just really going to produce cask beer. And I needed cans because people wanted cans. I did bottle, but we couldn't bottle on that big kit. So I got a bit of a loan, a bit more COVID bounce back loan to pay for canning machine, invested a bit myself, and got further grant from Adventure, which is very useful. So that's how we kind of funded it. It was self-funding and it grew itself quite a lot. But then when we took that step up, it needed a bit more funding. So a bit of self-investment, a bit of loan, a bit of grant funding. And now it just funds itself. And I do take a wage from it, although just taking a pay cut.
Yeah, well, you can do that. You're hoping for bigger on the back end. This is the dream, isn't it? So
yeah, it is. And, realistically, I've done that so I can invest more in the brewery. There's a few bits that just need a bit of investment, and it's not going to get that if I'm taking more money out. I need to take a certain bit out. Well, I've got a partner she's got a proper job. So, between us, we can make it ends meet.
Proper job.
Yeah.
She's doing the bus journey, is she?
Well, she's working from home mainly, but she's just come back. We've had a baby as well, which makes it even more complicated. But she's just gone back from maternity leave, and she's gone into the office today for the first time. She's like, I can't believe I used to do this.
Yeah.
She's not a fan. So she's mainly going to be working from home. She's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of changes coming out of COVID. I've been saying that, like, I don't know if you've listened to any of the episodes, but like early on, I'd talk about when I was planning this, because I was sort of thinking about it going into 2019. And I was like, this next decade is just going to be mental. Like, it's just going to be really crazy. And we get into 2020 and then we have the lockdown. And I'm like, okay, I thought things were going to be mad. I didn't think it'd be this mad this quick.
Yeah.
And I still don't think that we've really, like, we've not finished processing that whole experience.
No.
Like, it's all, and then the next thing's hitting us, you know, like we just keep getting hit by things.
Yeah.
And it's, it's lots.
I'm genuinely worried about this winter.
Yeah. I think everyone is, to be honest.
And I don't necessarily mean personally. I don't really mean business, because ultimately they're not massively that important and will survive by hook or by crook. But I'm worried about the old people, to be honest. I think they're the type of people that will think they can't afford gas and electric, regardless of whether they can. I think they'll be scared to put the heat in. And I think, given cold does kill a large number of older people anyway, I think we could be looking at an absolute catastrophe. And I think you've got not just old people, but you've got people who genuinely won't be able to afford it. Or if you think about, if you're paying 300 quid a month on gas and electric, and you've got, what, 700 quid a month rent, if that's a reasonable, like, cheap. So £1,000 a month outlay just on that
already, yeah.
Plus food, plus clothing. If you've got kids, it's going to be even more. You think if you're a single parent on a relatively low paid job, you literally haven't got the money. Like,
well, if you're most of the country, you're like on crap wages. No, it's like, no one's going to really wear that. Like, it's going to affect so many people. Yeah. And it's just because, it just doesn't occur to them. It just doesn't occur to them.
No, I can't understand how we're getting there. I listen to a lot of podcasts about the economy and things like that. And, because I used to keep it, that used to be part of the job as well. Keep in touch with that. So that's the best I can do when I'm driving around in the van. And a lot of talk about how all the economic statistics at the moment are just contrary to what would normally be the case. So you've got quite high employment.
Yeah. We've got a recession, but record profits in the stock market. And
and you're like, well, we're not, well, more America, but obviously we're linked as well. But they've never had a recession where there's been such full employment.
Yeah, and like more employment needed.
Yeah, it's it's not that people don't have jobs, which is not.
Well, no, I mean, like, there's more growing demand to put people in jobs. Like the amount of jobs is growing as well. Yeah. So it's like, what the hell is going on?
It's not paying enough. Like, the jobs just don't pay enough, do they?
Yeah. No,
that's that. And you think, well, that's unbelievable. Like, you can't say to people, get a job. It's like, I've got a job.
I've got 5.
Yeah. All my wages are going out on gas and electric and rent. And you're like, well, I just don't understand how we've got to this point. Well, I do. Yeah. I do, but I don't.
But yeah, it's still unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't quite believe it. And I fear for a lot of people. So yeah.
Okay. I'm going to stop us there because we're veering off the point. So, right, where should we go from there? So we've kind of done COVID. We will do, let's do the climate change question, because I think we're in that kind of area anyway.
Sure.
So my question on climate change, I use it to stand in for bigger, like all the environmental nightmares. So in your work, can you, or do you, or is it not something that you have space for? Do you do anything to kind of adapt to mitigate, or I suppose even raise awareness of climate change? Like, how does climate affect your work and your working ways?
It's, the main thing we did was get the electric back. And that helps to some extent. Obviously, you still got to produce the electricity, but You hope that as the infrastructure improves and they get more renewable sources, then that helps. But if you go around Leeds, it's something I've really noticed after the lockdown. So I was driving all around Leeds and the roads are dead and it's quiet. I was like, this is lovely. Like, it's actually quiet.
It's amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah, you can't hear the ring road. Like, amazing. And then cars started coming. You're like, oh my God, it's so noisy.
Yeah.
And, I was just walking around today with the dog and just engine noise. It's just horrific. And so,
and aeroplanes as well. If you're anywhere near flight paths, it's just like, God, shut up.
What's this in the sky? So I think noise pollution is a big issue because it does have negative mental health impacts.
Huge. And you don't people get so used to it and then they get somewhere quiet and they're like, oh God, I feel so relaxed and not tense. And it's like, you've been under intense stress, loads of noise and smoking.
It's in your ears all the time. So there's a lot of there's a lot of points that influence the decision on the van. But the actual air pollution and noise pollution was one of the considerations. Rather annoyingly, we can our beer now. We used to bottle. Again, one of the decisions behind that was that in Leeds, you've got curbside recycling of cans. You don't on the bottles, so they're more easily recyclable in Leeds, which is where most of our beer goes.
Yeah, they're lighter to transport as well.
Lighter to transport. And the beer is better quality. There's lots of reasons why we did it, but that was one of the considerations. The big negative we have is that our labels are plastic, and that's because we can't use paper with our setup. Complicated reason behind it, but basically the cans will have to be full before we label them. And then that means they've got condensation on the outside.
Yeah.
At the moment, they haven't created a paper label that would work with condensation. People are trying to do it. So hopefully, that will happen at some point soon and we can make the switch. And then, we're such a small business that we can't do a huge amount. As we haven't got a budget to go, right, we're going to put solar panels on our building because it's a rented building. We don't actually have a roof as well as others. But I'd love to do stuff like that. I think Springwell, like North Buco, they have solar panels, and that would be ace. We try and encourage a bit of greenery, but there is a limit to what we can do really, because we don't. It sounds bad, but we don't do a huge amount. We brew beer, we sell a lot of it on site, so we're not transporting it.
I suppose in terms of your your effects or your impact, with brewing, one of the largest ones is your water use, isn't it? So is there anything? Have you thought about dealing with your water use and water recycling? Is there anything that you can do? Is there any kind of benefit that you know about?
We use as little as we can.
Well, because obviously it's a cost as well. So
exactly.
You're incentivized to keep it down if you can.
Yeah, exactly. So, when we cool the beer during the brew process, you've got to transfer, you've got to do a heat exchange. So you get hot beer going through, cold water going through, cross pass. And we keep all of that water that we use in that process because then we can reuse that in the next brew. Well, that saves time and it saves money as well. So that's just the logical thing to do. And we use water for cleaning, but we don't. Again, it's just messy if you're using too much. There's not really any kind of pinch point there that we can utilize. We can use less water. It's just it is a case of it is what it is.
Yeah.
We try and reuse as much as we can. We try and recycle as much as we can. We have dedicated recycling. But again, this is where personally you're a little bit juxtaposition because we could use metal kegs, but we'd have to buy equipment that cost thousands upon thousands of pounds to clean them. And we can't afford that, and we can't afford the kegs behind it. We do it for casks, but kegs is more expensive. So we use single-use kegs, but then we use the least environmentally damaging single-use kegs that are fully recyclable.
Yeah.
And part of them is reusable. So, they're called eco kegs. I think it's a stretch to call it eco, but they are eco-friendly out of the single-use kegs, because you get a lot of kegs that are just single-use, and you just chuck them in the bin and you're like, geez.
Yeah.
So we do try and be as good as we can there. But like I say, it's down to financials and space to some extent. But again, it comes down to financials.
I think you're pretty well positioned though, because I mean, if and when, well, I think it's more of when, but like when they get around to like actually moving on all of the environmental stuff, you are a local business. You've already got an electric truck. Like, I mean, you could easily, if you had, say, a fleet of electric vehicles, you were brewing into bottles, those bottles could be returned. You would be a circular economy, like a small local circular economy. So I think you're quite kind of well positioned.
Yeah, there's talk of a bottle deposit return scheme coming in, where basically you'd have to take the bottles back and clean them. But if I'm honest, I haven't really looked into it. It comes in a couple of years or a few years, and it's so unworkable for small businesses that at the moment I've just gone, I'm not even going to think about it.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You've got more important pressing measures, matters on your mind at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And I can worry about that in a couple of years. At the moment, I've just got to try and pay the bills.
Yeah. Pay the extortionate bills. So, all right, let's move on we'll do Brexit. The questions will get happier. Basically, since we have Brexited, have you noticed any difference in your work? Has it affected you either positively, negatively, not at all?
It doesn't impact us a humongous amount. So we don't export any beer. We don't do that. So it doesn't impact us there. A lot of our products that we buy are like made or grown in the UK. We buy American hops, but it's from a UK based business. So their warehouse is UK based. And they've got, we do buy some European hops as well, but again, same thing, UK based. So we haven't had a supply chain issue with those. We did when we first properly left. We had issues then because some of the label suppliers would use companies from the EU, and containers just get stuck at Dover or Calais or wherever. And there was a point where we just couldn't get any labels for about 6 weeks, which was ridiculous. And that's because they were all the equipment was stuck in a port because, I think it's not regardless of your political views, but really it should be regardless of your political views. Brexit was always going to be a big risk. And that was my big thing about, I didn't like Brexit because of that. I didn't like the political side that came with it as well, in terms of some people thought, great, now we don't welcome foreigners. And I didn't like that. But on a financial side, it's a risk. No one could ever say when we're going to be better off or not. You can't, it's impossible. It is impossible to say. But what was guaranteed is that it's a risk, and it was a big risk. And that risk would probably, in the short term, impact the economy negatively. And that was a guarantee, right? And that's what's happened. And that has struggled a little bit. And we then have actually struggled a couple of times on kegs through the supply chain. And at the moment, the whole world is struggling with supply chain, which is a big part of the inflation that we're seeing. And whilst the UK isn't alone in suffering from supply chain issues, we're obviously going to
the sharp end of it
more because of Brexit. And we could do without that right now. I think, well, if we had a borderless entry into the country for goods, that would be useful rather than get things stuck. And there was, it's not us, but beer industry itself, there was a beer importer, so UK-based importer of EU beers, wasn't struggling to get the beer necessarily into the country, but they were struggling to send their empty kegs back into the EU. So that meant then that they couldn't get the beer back in because
they're holding it all up.
The breweries didn't have any kegs because they were stuck in the customs. So, there's definitely issues. Like I said, we're not insulated from it, but we don't have many issues coming from it because, we're quite small. We are struggling a little bit generally with supply chain, but I wouldn't say that's because of Brexit.
Are there any positives? I suppose that has to become the question ultimately, because everyone's like, it's either not affected me at all, or it has affected me, or my friend's been affected by it negatively. And
like I say, there's a potential that it could be better for us in financial in the long term. There's a potential, and I'm not saying that that will happen. And this is the annoying thing that I always found with politicians is that they were like, "Oh, it's going to be better. Oh, it's going to be worse." Well, why isn't anybody said, "Do you know what? We don't know, but we want to control our borders, and that's what I want to do." Right? Why couldn't they be honest about it? And I guess it's just politics.
And television, because television needs to two sides everything and go, "Oh, look, watch these people arguing."
Yeah, and it's what social media does.
Yeah,
it's how they build the business. So, I can't think of a benefit of it, if I'm honest. You could say that, some people would say that we can strengthen ties with other countries. You think, well, great, but probably better off strengthening ties with the countries that
we live next door to.
That's the best way to do it.
It's kind of like, oh, well, I could be friends with my neighbours, but I'm probably just going to go over to Bradford and make friends there.
Is that you? How would you? And I actually think the biggest ball that they dropped on it was the whole Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland issues that, I'm not an expert on, but they knew it was going to be an issue and they haven't resolved it still. And it's not like it's a minor issue, it's a big deal.
They don't care. Like, they really just don't care. They're just like, whatever, do whatever, vote for me.
Yeah. And I think that's, I think that's criminal. It's negligent of them to not think about that. Even if you don't care about anything else, that is something that they needed to resolve, is that border. Because as it was, it was relatively peaceful. And ultimately, that as a country, we want to be peaceful, you'd think. And anything that's going to potentially poke that nest, just don't do it. Get a solution before you actually go through with it. And even if they said, right, we're going to do Brexit, but we are going to sort out this border first. That we are not doing Brexit till we sort it out. Not going to trigger Article 50 or whatever it was. Just sort out the border, and we're going to do it. And, well, all right, fair enough. Do it properly at least. Well, they're not doing it properly. And do you know what? I was devastated the day that we voted to leave the EU. And you can argue all you want about the margins and whether 52-48 should trigger it. The rules were the rules, and we lost. And I don't like it. I don't agree with it, but I was willing to live with it. But we didn't do it properly. You've got to do it properly. If you're going to do it, if you're going to do all of this, do it properly and happen. So, I think it's a big failure, and they're still talking about, we're going to get rid of the rubbish deal. It's like, well, you did the deal. You did it.
We're going to tear up this. We're going to tear up our membership to this thing that we've got because we don't like it. Then we're going to tear up our agreement that we made with them because we don't like that. Yeah. We're just like, what kind of a crazy, moody teenager are you? I don't like it. I don't want to do that. I'm not doing that. No.
That's what I struggle with. Like I say, I don't like the fact that we lost. I don't like the fact we voted to leave. I don't like any of that. But I'm an adult. I can I'm a grown up. I can go, I don't agree with it, but I'll accept it.
Fine, let's get on with it. Yeah.
Let's just get on with it and do a good job of it.
Yeah. Like do the best that you can with it. Like pay attention to it.
I think that's a problem. I think they did do the best they can.
Well, yeah.
I think that was a problem.
Well, ultimately it's on us for picking these people to do it.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So, okay, we'll leave that there.
To see it, to sum up, short answer, I can't see a benefit of it.
Yeah.
And in fact, I'll just go a little bit further than that. To talk about the whole, it's going to stop people getting on boats to come over. It's like, they weren't allowed to do that anyway. Like Brexit isn't ever going to stop illegal immigrants. Like if that's what you want to call it, it's not going to stop refugees. It's not going to, Brexit is never going to stop them. If you're prepared to put people on a boat, cross the border to come in without going through customs, you're going to do it. Like Brexit was never going to.
Well, when it gets to the point of, migrations are so mass that, it's literally like a captured cruise liner coming to land that could possibly at that point be armed to the teeth. And you've got like London underwater and 8 million people like moving up north. Like, yeah. When are you going to actually start dealing with the problem rather than just going, no, I don't like the result of the problem. Deal with the problem.
Just, deal with it. And I don't know. If anything, Brexit's going to make crossings like that more frequent because if they had...
It's harder to get in. So like, you're going to be, do it illegally. You can't do it legally.
Yeah.
And it's not just the sort of border stuff. It's the whole like defunding all of these departments. Like defunding all these government departments so that they can't function, like nothing functions. And then you've got COVID on top of it, all these people that are off sick, all the people that have dropped out of the workforce because of that, all of the people who are like, I'm not doing this anymore because this is a rubbish job and it pays rubbish. Like it's just all compounding on top of each other.
Yeah.
It's, it needs to be addressed.
It does.
Right. We'll do social media. Do you have to dash off anywhere?
No. Like I said, I'm set aside for this. So, 11 o'clock.
It's marketing.
It is. Like I said, this is part of my job. Is to, is to get us out there. And I think I've only been on one podcast before. It's the second one, and we're kind of working on others. And I'm not used to trying to be like a public figure or whatever. Like I'm not used to speaking with people on stuff and being proper. But I'm trying to get a bit better at that. And, we've been on the radio a few times. So, it's what I've got to do. I've got to try and get my name out there.
So that is my question. So in terms of social media, like I made the point that it's becoming more and more work media. It's like stuff that we all have to do, or more and more of us have to do as part of our work, whether you're appearing in it or having to produce it. How much time do you have to put into it yourself? How much time does it take up for you? And do you see the return on investment of that time? Like, does it benefit you to a degree that you can see?
Definitely see a benefit of social media. If I don't put the time in, if Emma, if Emma doesn't put the time in, but she does. But before Emma kind of joined.
You've noticed when you couldn't do it.
So if I don't put the time in, so we've got let's go back. We've got two social media accounts. We've got one for the brewery and one for the tap room. And that's something we kind of started last year because I've realized that the brewer is always talking about what's going on in the tap room. I go, well, actually, the brewery should be shouting about the people that we're delivering to, kind of giving them their air. And the tap room account was created to focus on the tap room. So obviously, we're still building that presence. So it's not fully divided. And the brewery sometimes posts about the tap room. But if we don't do any social media, business drops. You see it straight away. And if you put a push out on social media, then we can see the uptick on it. And a great example was Friday morning. We shot on Friday morning. We shot on mornings. I was in, and we released a beer last week called the Big Gay Beer because we brewed it during Pride Month, released it in time for Leeds Pride. We've got someone who works in a tap room who they work they're a student, and it's all about graphic design. They're studying graphic design, and they came up with the concept of a strong lager, came up with the design for the can, and came up with the name. We launched the beer, and someone came in Friday morning specifically for that beer because they'd seen it on social media, and he said, "Keep posting on social media because I came in this morning on the back of seeing it on Facebook." I was like, that's great. Not that you don't often get that actual.
No, you rarely get that, like, the
So
direct
direct.
link.
Yeah. And I know there's one person who said that, but the feedback we got on social media about Big Gay Beer was actually incredibly positive. And I was really impressed with that because, let's be honest, it was a little bit of a potentially controversial name. Thankfully, it wasn't. And I think the people that follow us on social media understand where the beer came from. We weren't just kind of pride washing it.
Yeah.
We've put effort in to make sure that we are a safe space and everything. So that was good. And it was our biggest selling beer last week. We had excitement about a beer last week because of that. And I can't remember the last time we had genuine excitement about us releasing a new beer.
Yeah.
It's been hard trying to get that excitement. And we've launched some amazing beers last year or so.
But it's that whole marketing thing, isn't it? It's the name recognition thing of, like, if people can make that link of this thing to this thing. Whereas if you just come up with a new beer and a name, unless you've hit the right factors of, like, it's this and this and this, and you recognize it and you'll buy it. Yeah. There's no buy signal there, is there? You've got to develop it.
Yeah, you have. And it's been soul destroying sometimes. When we release it's like amazing.
Yeah. And you're like, this is so good. This is our best ever beer.
Yeah. And you start waiting for cans on the first week. Like, oh my God, come on, guys. And then, like, the Big Gay Beer is a strawberry lager. It's like, well, I'm not that excited about the beer. It's a nice enough beer, but, I was here drinking on Friday and I think I had half of it and I moved onto a ridiculously fruity sour that we've got that is like pushing the boundaries of beer. That's exciting. People don't care about that. They care about the strong lager.
Well, they care about the beer that ties into the thing that's happening. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's where social media has paid off. And, we're donating some proceeds to charity. Like I said, we're not pride washing, we are doing the proper effort behind it. In fact, you can see just pointing, not that you can see where I'm pointing, but you can just see there. We have got like some bunting over, we've got some bunting over there. And they've been up since the start of June. June's back month, isn't it? Yeah.
It's just Leeds does it weird. We do the parade in August.
Lose. Yeah, so we do see the impact from social media, and we definitely see it when it goes well, which it does sometimes, and we see it if we don't post. So I make myself busy. I try and make sure that I am busy. And I sometimes neglect social media, but then I do try and keep up with it. It does take up a little bit more time, and annoyingly, it's probably going to have to take up a little bit more time. Now Instagram decided that they want to try and take on TikTok. And that has been the biggest impact on us recently because it's quite easy to take a decent looking photo. Yeah, I'm not a photographer where I can like drape hops over a beer, splashing strawberries.
Yeah, but now with filters and stuff, and the cameras, like a lot of cameras will give you the grid lines to sort of work things out.
It works. Like you could do a decent photo in seconds, a decent enough photo in seconds. So much so that when I actually spent a little bit of time looking at it, I had a few people thinking that we actually employed a photographer for our social media on Instagram. I was like, no, I just kind of figured out how to use an iPhone properly. And now
I had some time.
Yeah.
Like 2 years locked up.
Yeah. Well, I furloughed myself for a couple of days a week at the start of last year, and I think it was during that actually. Yeah. Because I'm taking pictures of my dog. But now Instagram obviously deciding that the original concept of Instagram photos, no one wants to do that anymore, despite hundreds of millions of people wanting to do that. They want to go against TikTok and Instagram.
I think there'll be a pushback. I think
and there has been.
Yeah.
There has been, and they've changed it a little bit. But that being said, they focus on Reels. So we've got to do Reels. We have to do Reels. And I've read, and I believe it, that the Reels that are created within Instagram get more traction.
Than
if you just do a TikTok and upload that.
Which
Which is really frustrating because TikTok's a much better video editing platform.
That's it. They're all trying to compete against each other and we lose.
Yeah.
It's more work for all of us because it, like, to a certain degree, you kind of need to be on every platform because you reach everyone in your area.
Yeah, you've got to. And TikTok isn't as important. We're trying to build a bit of TikTok, but it's not as important because it's not locally based. Instagram, you can, hashtag Horsforth and there's people in Horsforth are going to spot it. But TikTok, TikTok's definitely more global. A lot of your videos you see are more global. So we don't do TikTok as much. I try and do a little bit. But our evolution of the brewery has gone through. Twitter was where we first kind of were in terms of social media presence. And that's where a lot of our sales first came from. We'll get 75% of our sales through Twitter. And then that kind of dropped off. Facebook replaced it. And then Instagram kind of elevated it. Facebook didn't really go down, but Instagram elevated it as I got a bit better at Instagram. At first I ignored it because I didn't like it. I still don't really like it, but I use it a lot. And I find it's actually probably my favorite. Doesn't mean I like it, but it's my favorite.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, a good example is last Friday, I painted a wall in the brewery. I was like, right. Normally I would have done a before and after photo, go, hey, paint the wall, job done. So, well, I've got to do a reel. It's a bit of an experiment. Did a reel of zooming in, zooming out and trying to get it to look brilliantly. I was like, I haven't got the time for this. I've got to do this now. I've done the wall. I've got to move on. So I just knocked up a really rubbish video. And it got basically double the amount of impressions that a really good photo the Big Gay Beer got. They both got, we found the Big Gay Beer got more likes, but the reel got more impressions. It reached more accounts. It's a rubbish reel. That's what frustrates me, is that I've got to spend more time to create something that isn't as good to get more people to see it. And that's annoying me at the moment because I don't really have time to kind of do a video or think of a video to do it, edit it, make sure it looks good, and then post it. I don't really have the time for that, but we noticed as soon as Instagram changed their algorithms, we noticed that our engagement dropped like significantly.
Yeah.
And Instagram was, and it still is, a very good platform for us.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the tap room and yeah, I found both your accounts quite early on, I think.
Yeah, and that's what's frustrating for us is that, you kind of learn how to do the social media and then they change the rules. And me say, well, we now got to relearn it. I have got a business to run, I can't.
God, I can't just make videos for people in California all day.
Yeah, exactly. It's the time aspect of it, especially because Instagram isn't great at video editing. TikTok is a much better platform. I can create a decent video for TikTok in an instant. Reels, it's just like, no, I just can't do it. So hopefully they improve that. But, we've just got to spend a bit more time on it.
If there was a UBI, Universal Basic Income, would you still be doing what you do now? Would you still be working? And if you would you still be doing what you do now? Or would you do something different? And if you would still be doing what you do now when there was the UBI, how do you think it would change your work?
Okay. It's an interesting question. I listened to and read a lot about UBI, but I've never actually had a conversation with anybody about it. Not really, I don't think. So it'd be interesting to know why it's a question, but because it's not like it's on the cards anytime soon.
It's kind of, yeah, but it's not necessarily, isn't it? I mean, like the way that crises are moving, I mean, like we're all under this assumption that, and that politics is always going to be like this, but at a point in time, if it does turn, and we know these things can turn on dime, we've seen it. And if all the media turns, I mean, there'll be like backlashes and this, that, and the other, but most people just do as they're told.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to do this thing. All right, fine. Let's do the thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I can foresee a circumstance where they're just like, look, we just got to put money in people's pockets and there's no other way of doing this.
Yeah. I think it'd be interesting. I think, the there's obviously a lot of talk about, I suppose it's not a massive leap where Truss and Sunak are at the moment, because all about seeing what they can do to basically to win votes, I guess. They're not doing it to help people, they're doing it to win votes.
But doing it to help some people.
Well, yeah. Well, obviously, this sort of giving people money doesn't help bring down inflation. And in normal circumstances, that's true. But a lot of this inflation is brought around not because people are consuming too much, it's because there's a stupid war going on that's driving energy prices up. It's killing everybody. The supply chain is strangling the supply. So, we're in a bit of an unusual situation. So it could be interesting. UBI could be an interesting way to do it. I think I think it is California that they've just given anybody that earns less than 500 grand. I think they just
they were doing an experiment with it.
But that's where that is going to drive inflation, because California, energy prices are still relatively cheap and they don't have as much requirement. Obviously, they've got the aircon, I guess, but it's a lot cheaper than what we've got. And they haven't seen the increases that we've got. So I think UBI here, I can actually see, even if it's temporary, I can see how it could benefit without really driving inflation. That wasn't your question. So,
no.
What's good? I just wanted to kind of,
No, it's fine.
I know what UBI is.
This is the thing that gives us the space to sort of like work, because we can always cut stuff out if we need to as well. Yeah. And so it's like,
you can cut me.
Maybe. No, I mean, I send it back to you anyway, so you can listen and if you want that out or whatever.
I'm joking. No, I think it's, the question was, would I still be doing what I'm doing?
Yeah. Well, basically it's like, how would it affect your work? Yeah. I mean, would you just be like, oh, right, I'm not going to work now and kick back and relax?
God, no. No, mate, it's not diagnosed, but it's strongly suspected I've got ADHD. I've got to be doing something. So I would, if they brought it in now, I'd be doing this. I'd still do this. And what I'd do with that money, it depends how much it is. But
it's more like what you do with your other money then, because then that pressure's off your personal finance.
Well, right. So I said what I'd probably do is just reinvest it in the brewery and get the brewery into a safer financial state. That's kind of what I've done now. That with UBI, we've taken the pay cut. It just puts some more money back into the brewery and try and get this to where I'd like it to be a bit quicker. Well, rather than investing a couple hundred quid a month in it in itself, if I could get that up to 600, 700, 800 quid a month eventually, then that's what I'll do. And that's what I would do with UBI. I think it'll just ease that personal pressure, reduce the stress a little bit there, and it'd drive the business forward a little bit more, because I wouldn't be as much of a financial drain on it.
Do you think it would improve your sales as well? I mean, obviously taking that pressure off your customers and potential customers, they have more disposable income potentially.
Yeah, I can't see how it wouldn't. I think, like I said, we've seen them with the cost of living headlines. As soon as they come out, we see a drop in sales. So you would imagine if that eases it and people have got a bit more cash, I always say, let's be honest, we live in Horsforth, which is a relatively affluent area. It's certainly not an area in distress, but there's a lot of families here. So, there's a lot of expenditure in that. The house prices are incredibly high. So people are, assuming people have got relatively high mortgages. So they might have stable jobs that are paying relatively well, but you know what people are like. A lot of people live to the means, and so if there's a squeeze, then they're still going to be impacted. And I think that a UBI would definitely ease that squeeze for them, and it would just free up a little bit of capital to enjoy yourselves a little bit. I think beer is such a weird product in terms of people's perception of it. Some people, you expect it to be cheap because the supermarkets have properly devalued beer. But then in a pub, people don't mind paying like £5 for a can of beer they can get for £1 in a supermarket. Mind.
So they do. I do. I mind that.
Yeah,
still do it, but I don't like it. I could buy 5 of these.
Yeah. But you shouldn't be able, the thing is, you shouldn't be able to buy a can for £1. Like, that's the thing there's one in the whole equation. And I was listening to a beer writer called Pete Brown, and he made me aware of this, which I thought was fascinating. It was all to do with when advertising for alcohol or for beer was kind of limited significantly. That advertising budget got switched from actual advertising to supplementing the price in supermarkets. That's where that budget went. So that's how it happened, and that's led to the downfall of a lot of pubs and everything like that, because it's just so much cheaper to drink at home, and which I didn't appreciate. So yeah, that's frustrating. So I think there would be a little bit, I think it frees people up, but it is potentially overlooked to new customers as well, that, if they've got a little bit more cash, they'd be willing to maybe spend a bit more on a can. Our cheapest can's like $3.75 at the moment. That's because it costs us more than £1 to make it. So, you've got to make your profit on it. And it would open people up to that, I think. Because they go, do you know what? I'll give it a go. It's not as cheap as your mass market lager. But it doesn't matter, because I've just been given £1,000 this month.
Yeah.
I think you could just, whilst COVID was happening, everyone's like, it could be the roaring 20s again, like the last century after the Spanish flu. I think UBI would give you that.
I mean, I don't know. Like, it's one of those things, isn't it? Of like, you'll never know. Like, if the war hadn't happened, and if the interest rates hadn't been put up, then maybe it could have been and the supply chain hadn't been ruined, which was always going to happen as soon as we shut down COVID, because the way it was set up.
Well, it's a fantastic play by China as well. They hoarded all the steel containers, so they squeezed the supply chain. And I think, whatever your opinion is of it, it's fantastic play for somebody who's trying to, realistically, they're trying to be the world's largest economy. So it's like, right, let's control the economy and let's squeeze people. Because they produce so much stuff, they don't have the reliance on the shipping container.
Well, that's the thing as well. Like, it kind of made everyone show their hand, didn't it? COVID.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, oh, what, you haven't got any masks? Oh, you haven't got any ventilators? Oh, you can't make any? Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. We happen to have factories that supply these things.
Yeah, that we make for you.
Yeah. Oh, you want to buy it for someone else? Well, they don't have a shipping container. We have a shipping container. Oh, okay. Cool. Twice the price. It's fantastic play about it, which doesn't help us, but there's a bit of a whirlwind at the moment of just negative pressures on the economy, which is going to be interesting. Like I say, the interest rate's going up, and obviously the whole idea is interest rates go up, inflation comes down.
Won't work.
Inflation isn't driven by overconsumption at the moment. So it's not like people have got too much money. That's what inflation's, those interest rates are trying to stifle, is people spending too much money. It's like, it's gas and electric, mate. And it's businesses then increasing the prices because they've got to cover their gas and electric, and they've got to cover their increased costs from their suppliers, and so on and so on and so on. I don't know what's going to happen.
So my final question is, if you could change any 3 things about your work right now, so anything at all, you can go as crazy or as sensible as you want with this. Any 3 things about your work right now, what would they be?
I would have a bigger brewing premises and bigger brewing equipment. I'd probably I'd have a nicer taproom area, like floor. We have got plans to do that, but you need the time to actually do it where people are working on it. Yeah. So we've got plans to redo the floor. So I want to do that. And there's just a couple of things like a back bar. I'd like to build that. Generally improve the taproom side of stuff, which we're doing. We are doing that. But if I'm honest, it's all about time and a bit of money. So you can't just do it all in one go. It takes time. So we've got to find the time. And instead of on podcasts, which is ridiculous, isn't it? It should be painted. Be real about it. That's what I should be doing. So I'd improve the taproom, and I would have a bigger brewing kit. I mean, if I have to name 3 things, those 2 things would basically give us a bit more money and spare cash. But money and spare cash, that would be the dream, really. Just because, like I said, we get the cash flow squeezes all the time, and that's the biggest stress. And fighting to not have those at the moment is my biggest stress in the whole business. I've got a good solid team. I really enjoy working the brewery, enjoy working with them. We just need a bit of cash. And if we had a bit more cash, it'd be like, yeah, it's all right.
Taking the pressure off, isn't it? It's like,
yeah, it just takes that pressure off. I always say,
but you need some level of pressure as well, like, because otherwise, if it's too easy, what's the point?
Well, but I think I'm always in competition with myself. I always push myself to do better. It's just kind of, we're not dealing with big numbers. It just feels like we're just at this level. The bottom's there, and you're like just skirting on it. It's like, if we were just there and it was dipping, it'd be all right. But then if we were doing that, if I was just up there, it'd be all right. And it's just, you'd always do that. But yeah, but then skirting too close to the bottom, I wish we'd just stop doing that. And, we are really trying. I've cut costs where I can. And like I said, we're driving sales as well as we can do at the moment. And you just hope that resolves it. Try. But then the bigger brew kit, that's going to take a long time.
I want to bring it back around because, like what you've mentioned there. So thinking back to health, well-being, when you sort of like, are you quite good at separating your work and your life, and like, or is it just too hard still? Cause it's just like, this thing's kind of taken over your life, but at the same time, does that obviously it's giving you stress. Stress is detrimental, but some stress can be good.
Yeah.
So do you think it's overall good for your health or better for your health? Or like, do you think it's healthy? Like where you are work-wise, do you think it's doing you good? And like you wanting to work, is that doing you good? Like,
yeah. I think we are in a relatively I am in a relatively healthy place with it at the moment. And on the stresses, some stress can be good. I definitely thrive off a level of stress. That's where I work best. And then where I work really good, when I get really good ideas, is when I've been really stressed and I take a bit of time off. And it's in that time off is where the best ideas come. And that's when I do my best work, is post stress. I do my best doing when stressed. So yeah, I do enjoy a little bit of stress. I forgot what the blooming question was now.
I mean, it's generally that. It's like, how do you think it's sort of,
how to get
improving your health? Yeah. Like, because obviously that with furlough and with COVID, you've got that downtime, and it is nice to have the downtime, but also it's like, it's a nightmare as well. Because it's like, what the hell do I do with all of this time? Like,
So yeah, I like pushing myself, and this does give me that opportunity. And I'd say that December last year, it did get too much, and I was damaged from that. And I kept feeling like I've been scarred from it, and I probably have to some extent still. And you learn lessons from scars, so and it has done that for me. So this year has been less stressful. Still with elements of stress, and I think
we're not out of it yet. Touch wood.
No, we're not. And at the moment, I've probably got quite a lot of worry about what's coming. But in the present
moment,
it feels all right. It feels all right, and I'm quite happy with that. And like I said, we had a baby boy last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I'd often have Mondays off, where I'd do the minimal amount of work of sending some sales emails out. But then I'd take him swimming on an afternoon, and the day was basically spent with him and my partner, because she was on maternity leave. And this job allowed me that opportunity to take that amount of time off. I barely worked on Monday for 9 months. Well, last Monday was meant to be the first Monday working, and it wasn't because he was sick, so I didn't get to go to nursery. So today's my first working Monday for over 9 months. And I don't think if I had an employed job, I'd been able to do that.
No.
I made the decision to do it, and it's cost me probably a lot of money and lost sales, lost productivity, but I'm happy with that choice because it meant I get to spend it with my boy, and that's great. That I think it's really important to spend that time with them as they're growing up. and be there. And as a result, we've got a really good relationship. And for me, that's far more important than working and earning loads of money.
Yeah.
Not being there for him.
Yeah.
I think you've got to be there for your kids.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we're in a relatively financially secure situation, which we are, thankfully. We're quite lucky with that. So yeah, I'm quite happy with where this is on a personal side.
Okay.
Just wouldn't mind that little bit more cash.
Yeah.
That's the one. Take that out and I'm all right. And realistically, you're looking at 2 to 3 plans worth of sales a month more, which isn't that unattainable.
I mean, once you get to that break-even point, it'll start to feel even better. Like once you pass that, and then it's like, oh, we're actually making profit now. That's gonna, Because I like people that I've talked to when they got to that point, it's like, oh God, such a relief, because it's like, finally it's paying. Like,
and there's no external investor here, so I don't have, I'm the sole.
It's you,
to me. So I don't have anyone who's like, why we need to make X amount of profit. As long as I've got a relatively nice outside life, I don't care how much profit this place makes, realistically, because I don't really have an ambition to sell it. Someone has, someone to give me.
Yeah, you don't want to take over the world. You just want to make some beer and make some money.
Yeah, I just want to have a nice life. And once I get to that point, then I might want to make more money, and I might want to make more money, and I might carry on. I don't know. But the initial goal is just to, like I said, it's just to make a little bit of profit. If we can do that, then the stress goes, and I won't have someone chasing me down to make more profit. It's all us. It's on me and how much profit I want to make. And that's what I like about this. I don't have that overarching kind of pressure from somebody else telling me I've got to do X, Y, Z. I'm making decisions. And there's something really liberating about that I appreciate. And that's where I get a lot of happiness from this place, is that I make those calls. And sometimes the calls don't work. Sometimes they do. When they do, it's a really good sense of achievement.
I think a lot of that's ownership of your work. I think, it's that sense of like, I own this work. This is mine. I did it, and I did it for me. If that work is doing something for somebody else, but I did that thing of doing that for somebody else for me.
Yeah. I'm big on that.
Yeah.
And I try and encourage that kind of mentality with the team as well. And when things go wrong, because things always go wrong, and they get a bit annoyed by it, I'm like, I want you to be annoyed about it. I want you to be annoyed that you've messed up. Like that's the emotion I want to see from you, that you're really upset about it. You should be upset about it because it's not good enough. But then I want you to learn from it, so you don't make that mistake again. And then you're happy.
Yeah.
And I encourage people to own the mistakes, and I encourage them to have the down points. I don't just push it off. Oh, don't worry about it. I want them to feel upset that they've done something that's cost thousands of pounds. Because ultimately I don't have a huge amount of money, so it's costing us a lot of money. I want them to be upset about it, and I think it's important to have that buy-in on your job, because otherwise I don't see how you could do a good enough job if you don't care about it. And then you got to celebrate the good times as well. When they've done well, I'd like to think that we do celebrate when they've done really well.
When you're in a good workplace, when they appreciate the work you're doing, not just like that they have to say thank you every day, but it's known, you feel it.
Hopefully my team do see that.
That's that's what you're aiming for.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Just one quick question before I throw it over to you. So would it have been easier to do it with someone else? Would it have been easier to have a business partner?
Yeah, this is something I kind of flirted with a number of times over the years. And like I said, the original concept came around when I was chatting with a mate. But it's a brain Horsforth, and he just wasn't really interested in doing it, which is fully understandable. And I got offered some investment opportunities when we first started, and I didn't want to do it then because I thought it's too cheap. Someone could have given me 10 grand and bought the whole bloody brewery. What are you going to do with 10 grand? You need some serious cash. So yeah, at the start, it was really easy to say no because it was such a small scale. And with I think we're still going through it. I go through kind of circles or whatever, cycles of, I really could do with a bit of help, whether that be someone physically doing more work than you would expect to get from an employee. Because ultimately that's what you need. You need someone who's going to do, like if you have another me, I regularly do 70-hour weeks, even if I'm not in the building, I'm doing stuff out.
Someone's got to get exploited here, and like,
Like every business that does well exploits someone. Like you just do, you've got to. And even on our side, our kind of scale, I'm exploited. You know, I'm on the end of the phone most days, and I
working weekends, doing too many hours.
Yeah, like so. The perfect example, hottest day of the world ever. That Tuesday the other week, did 15.5 hours that day. I didn't mean to do 15 hours that day. I ended up doing 15. I'm like, why am I work 15.5 hours on the hottest day ever? Well, I had to do it. There's work that had to be done.
I have to get this done now. It's been on my mind for ages.
Yeah. Like, well, I had to go do some stuff, and I had to do it. And to have someone else like that is incredibly valuable. I can see the value in that massively, because the amount of damage you could do with two people that are just like laser focused on it would be immense. The issue I've got is that most people that would be interested in investing in a business like this,
it's caring. It's like, who's going to care about this as well?
Like actually care about the business, not just care about the money coming out.
Yeah.
Care about the business. And I think that's the thing that I've never really come across anyone who will have the passion for this place that I've got. And, you know, it's probably a very high bar, because I've been doing it 5 years. It's been on my mind for like 7-8 years. So no one's really going to care about it as much as I do, but that's what you need. The only people that really shown any semi-concrete level of interest in it are purely people that have got money. They haven't got the love for the beer industry. They haven't got love for doing it, all of this. They've got love for money, which, do you know what? Could be realistically what the brewery needs more than anybody, but it's not what I need. I need someone who's got love for the industry.
That changes your work significantly.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So like I say, I don't want someone who's going to come in and chuck a load of money at us and right, I want my return. I want someone who's going to come in, chuck a load of money at it, and get that return themselves. I earn it. And, you know, it doesn't really happen that much in the brewery world, I don't think. But if another brewery said, they'd come and buy a chunk of this, I'd be more interested in that. If, there's a regional brewery that was interested in it, I'd be more interested in selling a chunk to them to try and get their help. On a much smaller scale than what Beavertown is. They sold 49% to Heineken. And just look at what Beavertown have done since. I mean, absolutely exploded. They're everywhere, blah, blah, blah. I would follow a similar model. I'd be more willing to follow a similar model with a regional sized brewery that would help us. But I'm not actively looking at it. I like the independence, but sometimes the pressure is a bit much. Even if it's a salesperson, it's, a salesperson would be useful. If a brewery came in and provided a sales team behind it, that solves a lot of problems. So it's always in the background, and it's especially the background when it comes to the quarter end, when I've got to pay VAT and rent at the same time.
Is anyone knocking on the door though? That's the other thing of like, are you getting these offers, or are these like, if that was to happen, it'd be something that you'd have to actively pursue?
Yeah. So at the moment,
it's time again,
it's time. Yeah. And it's something I do flirt with, and we're not getting offers at the moment. We get offers every now and again, and we seem to go through phases. We'll not hear anything for quite a few months, and then in a 3-month period, we'll have 10 people wanting to invest. And I normally just back them away, because I don't know from Adam, he could be anybody. And then every now and again, there's a semi-interesting person. Nothing's ever come of it. And I always kind of think, surely the worst time to sell a chunk of your business to get an investor is when you need them.
Yeah.
Like that's when, you're not a forced seller as such, but you're kind of a forced seller.
Yeah.
That's when your price is going to be lower. So when I don't need them, I'm more focused on something else. And when I do need a bit of cash, that's when I'm this is the place to buy. I might do, once things once things get a bit settled, which surely they will do one day, that's probably when we'll start doing a bit of groundwork, just kind of seeing what I need to get ready and see, because I think ultimately it would be pretty useful, whether it be a full injection of cash or just another person that is prepared to do stupid hours. Oh, both.
I'm going to throw it over to you. Is there anything that you want to talk about, anything that you want to cover or promote, or anything that you want to say at this point? So basically over to you.
This is normally where I go, no, but I'm actually going to try and be good and try and promote our beer festival, which is at the end of this month. This bank holiday weekend. Which I don't know when this episode's going out. Hopefully before then. We did one over Easter that was really successful, and we're doing one in August bank holiday weekend because everyone was like, "Yeah, we'll come." So we haven't sold as many tickets as I'd like, but we sold a decent amount. But we want it to be better, so I'm going to plug that. And just generally, our beer, in small independent breweries. I think Leeds is a very good city for independent breweries and great beer. But, if we don't support them, then they won't exist. And it's hard at the moment. We're doing all right. We're surviving. We are going to survive for a good while longer. But I'm aware of some breweries that probably won't. And some breweries have already gone. So if we lose too many, that will stop Leeds being such a great city for it. And it's happening all over the country. It's a struggle at the moment. So if people could do that, that'd be ace, because it's better than supporting the big boys.
And do you want to give us your socials? Where can people find you?
Yeah, so people can easily find us if you just search on any of the socials for Horsforth Brewery or Horsforth Brewery Tap Room. You'll see us there. They're quite intertwined. With the links on both. With the Twitter's a bit more kind of me on an unprofessional side, doing more personal. Instagram's.
That's what Twitter's for.
Yeah, exactly. It works. I think someone kind of got warned off by me because I'm quite outspoken, apparently, which I've heard is interesting. Never been called that before. I got called a communist on Twitter the other week as well, which is, if people know me, I'm not a communist. But
you've worked in finance for years.
Yeah, I felt quite proud of being called a communist, but not because I am one. I don't know.
I literally own my own business.
Yes, I'm quite a capitalist, really. Just a relatively left-wing one, but so there and there, all the events on Facebook. As much as I hate Facebook, it does actually serve as well as a social media platform. So we're quite active on Facebook, especially for the events. That's where a lot of people find us. And Instagram, we'll just be doing more reels. See us dancing in no time.
Is this really what my life has come to?
Yeah, dancing
for money.
Yeah. I think we could do an interesting dance or something in the brewery, but I just don't want to.
I know. I want it to business. If I wanted to do, perform, then I got into TV.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to brew and sell beer. That's all I want to do.
Thank you again to Mark for being my guest. Thanks again to all my guests, and thanks to you, Leeds, for being my subject. And of course, most of all, thank you to you, my dear listener. Hope you liked that, and I hope you like the next one. Haven't decided what and when, but there's plenty coming. I have a good one for before Christmas. Keep your eyeballs peeled and your earballs open for the next episode. And remember, Leeds, whatever you do, I'd love to hear about it from you. You can follow this show on Twitter at Working Hours 3 and on Instagram at Working Hours Pod Leeds. Use the hashtag Working Hours Pod Leeds to stay up to date on when new episodes are being released, to DM me with your questions, or most importantly, to get in touch if you'd like to be my guest on this show. Please do chuck in anything you can to help the show grow. Go to ko-fi.com/working hours and join me there for £1 a month, or you can make a one-off donation of whatever amount. You can also go to patreon.com/working hours pod to support Working Hours, again from as little as £1 a month. Why not be super awesome and join both? Do something new and something different. Remember to like, share, follow and subscribe to Working Hours. That's me. Cheers ears. Take care out there and be kind to each other, Leeds. Working Hours is produced, recorded, edited and published by Simon Treen for Western Studios Leeds Limited. The music was The Bees from Chopin's Etudes, which is in the public domain and was taken from museopen.org. Please like Western Studios Leeds on Facebook at facebook.com/Western_Studios_Leeds and on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/company/Western-Studios. Leeds, are you considering taking the plunge into podcasts or audio content? Then think Western Studios for support, advice and guidance on getting it made. At Western Studios, you work with a real-life learner who is actually in Leeds. Not a piece of software, not a course of articles or a series of live chats and video courses, but me, a person in physical place-based reality. If you want to work with me to make your podcast or any digital audio content in Leeds, whether it's for your own cause, your publicity campaigns, to promote your products, increase your sales, or just to create your own passion projects, then get in touch with me, Western Studios, now. Don't wade through vapid articles and videos and podcasts about how to make podcasts by disembodied virtual people on the web. Get on with making your podcast now, and then when it gets hard and expensive and it all goes wrong, which it will, then call Western Studios to make your podcast with you or even for you. Western Studios will take on your podcast's boring, time-consuming and painful admin, recording, editing, transcription, whatever. Tell me about your podcasting pain points and I can make it all better for you. I feel your pain. For a charge, I will share it. Remember, podcast work is work. Leeds businesses, Leeds campaigns, Leeds brands. Got an inkling that you'd like a podcast but don't know where to start? Contact Western Studios at makemypodcast@western-studios.com and we'll start making your podcast straight away. The first hour of arranged consultation and pre-production time is free. £25 an hour after that for editing, recording, production. I can also arrange hefty discounts for the right projects. So tell me your idea and your budget and I'll tell you what I can do for you. What do you have to lose? Time. That's what. Time is running out. The best time to make a podcast was 10 years ago. The second best time is right now. Writers in Yorkshire, what are you doing with your lives? Hopefully you're writing. Well, I know there are listeners out there who want to hear great original writing performed as audio content that is about and for and has been made in Leeds. How do I know this? Because I'm one of them loiners what wants it. Help me make your old screenplays, unpublished novels, unperformed plays, stories, poems, and performances, whatever you got, baby, and make it as podcast content. Is your work arty, salacious, pulpy, strange? Good. Is it unfinished? Good. I can help you with that too. I can work with you to find actors, musicians, and voiceover artists and quickly realize your projects. I get practice making the shows and you get a finished, performed and published version of your writing. Save yourself the hassle and the headache of making your podcasts on your own by working with me instead.